A successful surgeon learns she has supernatural powers. Questions arise about her past. Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I'm starting my review of the new series, Mayfair Witches, on AMC. Of course, this is following the successful introduction of the first season of Interview with the Vampire. So we're going to look at Mayfair Witches. And as always, this is a spoiler review, so just be warned. So now, let's recap episode 1. Now, I will say as I get ready to start this episode, there's a lot of jumping back and forth here between places and also times, and I think I have most of it down, but a couple things were a little on the confusing side, so hopefully everything's okay. So we're going to start out in New Orleans, and we're at it looks like Mayfair House is what I'm going to call it, and a doctor has arrived and is coming to see Deidre, and it's apparent there's something wrong with Deidre. This also doesn't seem to be the normal doctor who has seen her. He is there to give her a shot of Thorazine, and he is a little suspicious of things going on here, and he is going to want to examine her first. So he actually asks her attendant to leave. Of course, she's non-responsive. She is sort of sitting in almost like a catatonic state. Now, from there, we're going to meet the main character here in our story, and that is Rowan. Rowan is a very accomplished surgeon. She works in a hospital. She is very well respected. She does live on a boat, so she's able to just sort of explore everywhere. That's her statement. And with that, we're introduced with Rowan at the hospital as she's getting ready to do surgery on a little boy. And the boy is very, I wouldn't say upset, but concerned about the outcome of the surgery because he's watching his parents and they seem a little concerned. But Rowan is very confident. The only problem is Rowan ends up not being the one doing the surgery. The chief of surgery is. And this is not exactly his forte. He is doing it because like a member of the board is there watching this surgery, and he is doing it exactly the opposite of the way Rowan thought it should have been done because of the little boy's case. And so it turns out there's going to be an emergency in the operating room. Rowan was right and he was wrong, but they are going to end up saving the boy's life. And Rowan is very upset about this, the fact that they almost lost this child because she had to basically give in to this older surgeon who was thinking about other things and impressing people instead of doing what was the best for her patient. We're also going to get another look at Rowan's mom at this point. Basically, Rowan's mom is apparently a cancer survivor, and that cancer has returned. So we get to see her talking to her mom, and her mom telling her that it has returned. And then we get to see Rowan sort of back off a little bit, I guess, and she is going to swallow her pride a little bit, and she goes in to talk to the chief of surgery, and I can't remember his name right off, and she is wanting him to help her get her mom into a special trial. One of the people that was actually watching the surgery has an in with a company that's doing a trial for that cancer that her mother has, and Rowan would like him to do her a favor to get her into the trial. Well, he's going to deny Rowan big time. Basically, he thinks she's cocky and arrogant, and he doesn't really like her. He doesn't want to help her any. Now, at the end of the meeting with the chief of neurosurgery, Rowan's going to get really mad, and we flash to a scene where she actually is able to see inside of his head, and a blood vessel breaks, and he passes out. And that's going to be very important because she is going to think that she did it, and she really did do it. Now, from there, we're going to start our time hopping, and it is probably about 30 years prior, I'm guessing, because we're going to see Rowan's mom, Deidre, and this is her real mom, not her adopted mom who has cancer. And Deidre is at the church, and there's flower petals, rose petals going all around outside. Her aunt spirits her away back to their house and is really upset with her, and Deidre has somehow come across this man we're going to call Lasher, and we're not exactly sure what's going on with him. He seems like he might be a ghost or apparition or something like that, because he comes and goes and disappears, and of course we don't have any explanation for that yet. And so this is basically our introduction to Lasher and Deidre. Now, after the scene where we have our flashback, Rowan's going to go talk to her mom, and at this point she's feeling really guilty because of what happened with the doctor. Apparently he survived. They were able to get him to surgery, I guess, and he survived, or at least looked like he was going to survive. And so she's just feeling very bad about that. So when she leaves her adopted mom pulls out this business card and calls this phone number, and this creepy blonde lady answers, and her mom asks us if there's a worker for Rowan's case, and we're still not totally sure what that all would be, but the woman does go through this set of records and finds out there is a worker for the case, and I'll have to remember that name later, but she's wanting to make sure there's going to be someone to help Rowan or protect Rowan once she passes away. Next scene, we actually get to see Rowan at the bar, and basically the bartender there, they seem to know each other, and they're going to head back to her boat, and they're going to hook up, and he leaves angry at her because she's a little arrogant and she's a little bit full of herself, and it doesn't really turn him on long term, and so he's going to leave. Now, we get another flashback scene here, and we're going to get to see a new character who's coming along for us, and his name is Cortland, and he is played by Harry Hamlin, who looks awesome. He looks way younger than his age, to be quite honest. But we get Cortland, and Cortland sort of is that male witch type figure here that is quite suspicious. Cortland is Deidre's uncle, and he's playing with a snake when she comes in, having his feet rubbed when we get to see him in the scene. And so what happens, or what apparently happens here, is he has sent to get 3 guys to come in, and he's going to choose one of the guys. He's tall and handsome, and they're having a masquerade party, and he is basically going to hook up that guy with his niece, Deidre. And as you can probably imagine, they do end up off in their own little room, and they hook up. And it's sort of an odd hookup scene because it's hard to tell what's going on. Some of it looks like she's actually hooking up with a demon, a masked person, and it never really looked like she was hooking up with the actual guy that they chose. So I don't know how that's going to turn out. And then when she wakes up the next morning, the guy is gone, and there's a dead body being removed. Now, we don't ever get to see the dead body. It's just wrapped in a white sheet. So she's extremely upset about this. Okay, flashback. We are back in present day, and I'm just going to call him the Guardian right now. The gentleman that the blonde lady told Rowan's mother about. He is doing some investigating, and through some magic, he gets a glimpse of Lasher, and he's at someone's house. I think that might be the old house for Deidre and her aunts. I couldn't really tell that well, but he gets a look at Lasher there, and we're going to skip on back to see while he's there, he does call Rowan's adopted mom, and they talk about what he saw and that he will be there for Rowan if she is not. Of course, Rowan's adopted mom is understanding that she's probably not got too long to live. Now, skip forward, we get to see Rowan. She is actually at this doctor's meeting where she is wanting to be basically, it's almost like an aide with the trial that is going on, the cancer trial, and she has the doctor who's running that trial, and she basically just confronts him and says, hey, I want my mom to be part of this trial. And he's very impressed by her. He actually hits on her. He wants to take her to dinner, but she refuses. They sort of hit it off until the doctor hands Rowan a list of patient names. Those are all the patients who are already in the trial, and as he explains, the FDA is very picky and there's already 30 people. It can't be 31. You have to choose one to leave the trial. Rowan agonizes over the decision and finally does not pick anyone. She actually tells him that if she picked one of those people to lose out on the trial, her mom would just die if she knew. And so she refuses, but she is angry with the doctor, and the same thing that happened with the surgeon from earlier, the chief surgeon, happens again. But this time, he's going to die. Rowan heads to talk to her mom, and basically at this point, it's one of those situations where she's basically admits what happened, and she's upset, and at this point, they're just waiting for her mom to pass away. Now, skipping back to the past, and Deidre is now pregnant, and she asking a lot of questions. She knows there's some crazy things going on. The priests aren't being very much help, and eventually she actually is wanting to try to basically escape her aunts, and she thinks something weird is going on. She does actually step out like she's going to commit suicide, but she does not, because she is stopped basically by the Lasher character. She's going to basically hear, I guess, one of her aunts praying for help. They think they're going to have to take the baby, or that sort of seems like what was going on there. And she ends up in a room talking to Lasher, and apparently there was a situation where she is wearing a pendant and a chain that was put on her while she was younger, and that acted to betroth her to Lasher is sort of what I'm getting, but it wasn't her decision. So now that she's pregnant, he asks her to take it off, and he actually shows her what he is, which is sort of like a shape-shifting demon or something. I'm not really totally sure yet. Maybe it's a witch. I don't know. We'll have to see. We're just not far enough along yet. But with that, once she sees him, she puts it back on the chain with the pendant, and basically the symbolization there is she knows who he is and she accepts him. And so with that, she does go into labor, and the baby is going to be born. Now, we do intercut some scenes from current day where we do get to see Rowan's adopted mom pass away. Now, with that, with her adopted mom passing away, we actually get the complete flashback there to where it's not really a flashback the way it was filmed, but basically what happens is we get to see one of Deidre's aunts take the baby, and she's going to give it to a very young version of Rowan's stepmom, a very young version of Rowan's adopted mom, and she calls her aunt. So I'm interested in that as well. So we do get to see basically Rowan's birth. We get to see her adopted mom's death. We get to see when she was given to her adopted mom. And then we are going to head back to New Orleans, present day, where the doctor is definitely something fishy going on, because he is not going to give Deidre the Thorazine. He also takes that chain and pendant off of her and puts it in her pocket. And he whispers in her ear that he's not going to give her the drug. He wants to see what she is like off of it. And so with that, we skip to the end here where we get to Sarah Guardian again looking through a file. And then we skip to Rowan's boat, and there's going to be sort of a flash of lightning as she's looking out the door, and she's going to see the outline of Lasher. And then the episode ends. All right, now that we've gone through our recap, I do want to just throw out some thoughts and reactions, and I don't have a lot because this is basically a introductory episode. It is setting a lot of the background and building the world. I've never read the Mayfair Witches trilogy, so I don't have that background, so not a lot of thoughts to really get out there. A couple things I will say: love the music. I thought the music just aided to the creepy feeling of the entire episode, and and I hope that music continues throughout. I was disappointed a little bit with, I'm guessing it's CGI. I mean, did they really need to CGI the ocean? I don't know that they did, but it really looked fake to me. And if you're doing something that people think is spare no expense, why did it look so bad? And I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm imagining things, but when she was on that boat, everything out in the ocean just looked totally like it was CGI. Also, now one thing that does concern me a little bit though is with the locations. Now tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't the part of the show that we're looking back to Deidre when she was younger and even the older Deidre with the doctor, isn't that supposed to be New Orleans? And if it is, I never got the New Orleans feeling. Even in that party that Cortland threw, I really didn't get a sense of New Orleans. Not as much as I did in Interview with the Vampire. I thought that's something they did very good in Interview with the Vampire, was the sets and getting that feel for the New Orleans area. And so maybe that's something that's going to come in the next episode and later, but it is just a small concern I have right now. The last few things I'm going to hit aren't really thoughts, it's more of questions. So let me just hit those really quick. And the first one, of course, is what is the scope of magic in this world? The only thing we've really seen so far is Rowan being able to see inside of someone's head and make a blood vessel burst. That's pretty much it so far. Now we saw whatever the Guardian guy did when he went to the house to see what was going on. We saw Lasher turn into whatever he was, and then whatever was going on while Deidre was hooking up with the guy at the party. Outside of all that, that's a big question for me, because when you talk about witches, when you talk about anything like this, I want to see magic, and it needs to come in large amounts and often, and it needs to start pretty quickly, or it'll totally turn me off of the show. Second question, who is the doctor? What does this doctor know that the rest of us don't? Why is he there? He was a different doctor, a new doctor. What happened to the old doctor? And just what's going on in that situation. Of course, we don't know a lot of that, and that's going to come up in the future. And I guess the last question is, who is Lasher? Exactly what was happening with that character? Why is he important? My assumption is he's some type of demon, maybe the devil, something like that, but we just have to see. But again, that's a question. I don't expect to find that out in the next few episodes, but that is going to be a major storyline in this season. And last thing I'll just say as a thought is I really hope we do get to see more of Cortland. I thought the character, just Harry Hamlin, was great. I would like to see that extravagance sort of tied into being a witch and sort of see that guide the development a little bit of this series. Now, with all that being said, I do want to give a grade for this first episode, and for this episode, which is titled The Witching Hour, I'm going to give it a B. I think it was a good, solid start. We got to introduce characters, we got to get some background, we sort of got the gist of the story. And so with that, I think it's something very good to build on. It is taking a little bit of a slow burn to get us started. I'm fine with that as long as it picks up and move steadily to the end. And so I think B is a fair grade for this to start with. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this review for Season 1, Episode 1 of Mayfair Witches. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. And I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.